She was up a set and 2 breaks. She was one step from serving out the match. And then something broke. Aryna Sabalenka, the best player on the planet right now, the woman who has owned the WTA Tour since the end of 2024, fell apart on court Philippe Chatrier in a way nobody saw coming. And the 4 words she said afterward are still echoing across the tennis world. Just wanna quit tennis right now. Today we're breaking down exactly what happened inside that meltdown, and for the first time, her own coach is explaining what was really going on in her head. Let's set the scene. Sabalenka walks into her Roland Garros quarterfinal against Diana Schneider as the overwhelming favorite. World number 1 against world number 16. This is supposed to be a routine night on the way to another final. She comes out firing, takes the first set 6-3, and races to a 5-3 lead in the second. She's 2 games from locking up the match. Then the wind picks up on Chatrier, gusting up to 30 miles an hour, and something shifts. Schneider starts finding her range. Sabalenka starts overthinking every shot. And what follows is one of the most brutal collapses we've seen from a world number 1 in years. She loses 10 straight games. 10. The scoreline ends up reading 3-6, 7-5, 6-0, and by the third set she's not just losing points, she's barely competing. When she sits down for her press conference, less than 10 minutes after walking off that court, she looks completely hollowed out. No fire, no composure, just a blank stare and a voice that sounds like it's coming from somewhere far away. No thoughts, no emotions, she tells the room. Just wanna quit tennis right now. She goes on to admit that her real problem was control, saying she gets stuck overthinking mid-match, and that the spiral leads to careless errors and a total loss of confidence in herself. It's one of the rawest, most unguarded moments we've ever heard from the top seed in the women's game. Naturally, the soundbite exploded. Within hours, Sabalenka wants to quit tennis was everywhere, clipped and reposted out of context, framed like a career-ending confession instead of a player processing shock in real time. So we went looking for someone who could actually explain it, and we found him. Jason Stacey has been part of Sabalenka's team since 2018, working closely on her mindset and performance under pressure. And when he was asked directly about that quote, his answer cut through a lot of the noise. Stacey said he didn't read much emotion into the comment at all, at least not in the way people assumed. In his words, she had simply lost her rhythm, lost her sense of where she was in the match, and the team's approach in moments like that is to step back rather than step in. He explained that their philosophy is to let her move through the disappointment on her own terms, give her room to feel whatever she needs to feel, and only check in once some of that initial shock has settled. No immediate intervention, no rushing to fix it, just space. But here's the detail that actually explains the timing of that comment more than anything else. Stacey revealed that nobody on Sabalenka's team spoke to her between the final point of the match and the moment she sat down in front of reporters. Zero conversation. She walked off the court still inside the loss, still inside that 10-game collapse, and within minutes she was facing a room full of cameras and direct questions about what just happened. Stacey framed it about as plainly as you can. Picture having the worst moment of your week, and 90 seconds later someone shoves a camera in your face and asks you to explain your feelings about it. That's essentially the situation Sabalenka was placed in. The press conference wasn't scheduled around her emotional recovery, it was scheduled around tournament logistics, and she simply didn't have the runway to process a historic collapse before being asked to talk about it on record. It's worth remembering this isn't actually new territory for Sabalenka at Roland Garros. She suffered a similarly painful exit there the year before too, which makes this back-to-back disappointment on the same court sting even more. She even brought up the wind herself afterward, pointing out that conditions on Chatrier were swirling badly enough that she questioned why officials left the roof open, especially after a men's match the previous year had been paused for exactly that reason. Whether that's an excuse or simply an honest observation depends on who you ask, but she was careful to note that the wind alone doesn't explain a 10-game collapse. By her own admission, something mental cracked at the same time the conditions turned. And it's not the first time her emotional honesty has made headlines either. Patrick Mouratoglou, who coached Serena Williams for years, weighed in publicly afterward, suggesting Sabalenka essentially has 2 versions of herself on court, and that what we saw in that third set was something close to panic mode taking over once the pressure compounded. It's a theory that lines up with what Sabalenka herself described, that once she starts overthinking, the spiral feeds itself, and by the time she recognizes it's happening, she's already several games deep into the damage. There's also context worth knowing about why Stacey's calm reaction carries weight. He's been part of Sabalenka's inner circle since 2018, helping her work through anger management and emotional control long before this tournament. He's previously described an even darker chapter back in 2022, when Sabalenka was reportedly close to walking away from the sport entirely. According to Stacey, he gave her a stark choice at the time: accept the end of her career or fully commit to overhauling her mindset from scratch. She chose the second path, and everything that's followed traces back to that decision. He's seen her at a genuinely lower point than this, and he knows the difference between a player spiraling for good and a player having one brutal night. For her part, Sabalenka didn't run from any of it once the dust settled. She openly admitted she's tired of letting matches slip away because she gets over-emotional, and she said she needs to find whatever that missing piece is that keeps tripping her up in these big moments. She even joked in a much lighter tone days later about wanting to spend a day in one of those rage rooms just smashing things to get it out of her system. It was a small flash of the humor that usually defines her, peeking through right after one of the heaviest nights of her season. And that's really the bigger story here. This wasn't a player threatening to walk away from the sport. This was a champion having a completely human reaction in the worst possible window, with cameras rolling before she'd even had a chance to breathe. Since then, she's confirmed she sought out a psychologist to work through what happened in Paris, and she's already back competing in Berlin ahead of Wimbledon. Stacey himself has a book coming out this fall built around exactly this kind of pressure, the idea that there's no universal formula for getting through these moments, only the version that actually works for the individual living through it. So no, Aryna Sabalenka isn't quitting tennis. She's the same world number one she was before that quarterfinal, still the player every Grand Slam draw fears most. She just had 30 seconds of total honesty in the cruelest possible moment, and the internet ran with it before anyone bothered asking the coach who actually knows her best. Now you know the full story. Let us know in the comments if you think she bounces back at Wimbledon, and subscribe for more breakdowns like this one.